How you doing? This is David W. Williams, also known as Diamond Dave, and I wanted to bring you a really special broadcast, and we're going to talk about the credit space, whether or not credit can probably be used to hang you or improve your situation, and to really give a much further discussion about this. I wanted to bring in Victoria, the credit solutionist, to give us a better understanding of what's going on in the credit world and how it can impact you in the future, and whether or not it's going to be to your benefit or be to your detriment. So this is one of the reasons why you want to watch this video all the way through, because if you take advantage of some of these situations, they can help you, but they can also hurt you. So we want to put you in the best situation to take advantage of what's going on. So Victoria, what's going on with you today?
What is up, Dave? All is well in the credit space over here. How you doing?
I'm doing really good. So how's everything going credit-wise early 2023?
Is looking good for certain people. It's looking scarier for others. You know, we got a lot of people still in debt, about somewhere between 35 and 64 million. So I'm gonna just go ahead and stick with 64. Okay. 64 million people currently in credit card debt right now. And, you know, with those numbers you just popped up right there, I wanted to actually tell you the number has increased. It's now 986 billion as of March.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So do you think those numbers will continue to expand, or they get smaller as the year goes on?
I do think that the numbers are going to continue to expand because they're pretty much falling in line, in my personal opinion, and really professional, with inflation, right? Okay. Because as you know, just goods and services become more expensive, people are trying to stay afloat, but people are also not adjusting their lifestyle to what is really happening. So you're definitely going to see an increase 100%, but it's not for the reasons that people think it is. So.
Okay. So really quickly, this article from CNBC talks about U.S. credit card debt jumps 18.5%, hits 936 billion. We know now from Victoria that number has continued to expand. So we got total credit card debt at 936 in the fourth quarter of 2022. And as the balances started to rise, we're also having a rise in delinquencies, right? The last thing we want to talk about is that total credit card debt to a record 936 billion, which was at 18.5% spike from the year earlier. And one of the reasons that we think why we're starting to get the increase in credit card debt is because a lot of the money that people were sitting on may have been sucked out of the economy, but that's why we wanted to bring an expert on. So Victoria, we want to ask you, why do we think this credit card debt, or why do you think, based on your experience and your expertise, the credit card debt is continuing to go up?
Well, like we said, definitely inflation is part of that because, you know, our dollar really isn't going as far as it could go now, which means that we're going to pretty much be out there spending. Now, the thing about credit card debt also that people have to understand is that when it comes to consumer spending, your average consumer will only spend about maybe, I think it's like $22 to $25 in a cash transaction. They'll do that like nothing, right? But how much can you buy with $25, right? And the average person, though, that has credit extended to them, if they utilize that credit, they're apt to use about $100 to about $112 per transaction. So that's why you see that the credit card debt is skyrocketing, you know, because as costs go up, then, you know, we're going to spend more on the credit card than we will as far as our cash.
Okay. So you're saying psychologically, from a behavior standpoint, people are more likely to use the purchase, or we could call I don't know, in the marketing word, we call it cost per acquisition, or we call it average order value. I'm sorry. So when they're doing a transaction, the amount that they transact is going to be greater with the credit than it would be with the cash.
Exactly. And it's the same, like, if you want to kind of bring it down a couple notches as far as class goes, imagine if you were using your cash, you know, you're kind of in an area that maybe the income is not that great, right? And you have, government assistance. You're more likely to buy 2 boxes of cereal because you have those WIC vouchers than you are to buy 2 boxes of cereal with your cash. Okay. So it's the same idea. It's because it appears to be disposable income to you. So you are going to spend more naturally. So yes, definitely psychological.
Okay, I do. Yeah. And I remember because I was talking to somebody about a time in which I was unemployed and I had a certain amount of money in the bank, but I also had credit lines. Right. And so what I did was I used my credit lines to keep myself going and try not to use my cash because I know I needed my cash to pay my rent. So I was at I'm gonna just turn my credit until I get another job because I can pay the minimum, but keep my cash to make sure I can pay the bills that I can't pay with my credit.
Exactly.
Yes, ma'am.
And since we know the dollar is worth less now, like I said, again, a lot of people are less likely to use their hard-earned cash when they know it's not going to go that far. But as we get into this conversation, I'm going to explain why I think that might be not so good of an idea right now.
Okay. So then we talked about delinquency starting to spike up. So why do we think we're starting to see delinquency starting to spike up as over time?
Really, it's a lack of liquid assets. People, even though we're talking about people will spend less cash, part of the reason they're spending less cash is because they don't have it.
Oh, man.
That's really where it starts. It's like, we don't have the cash. So if I don't have the cash to really buy that lobster tail, and I'm just being facetious, but if I don't have the money to buy that lobster tail, right, what makes the credit card company think that I'm going to have the cash to actually pay for that lobster tail that I just charged?
Okay.
Right. So what happens a lot of times too is lifestyle creep. So once we start, getting into the habit of using our credit card for basic expenses, and then also, discretionary purchases, right? Everything goes up. It just goes up, 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 up. Your minimum payment goes up as well. So people don't pay attention to that. It's like the more credit you spend, the more money you're going to be paying back for a longer amount of time, unless you can make those balloon payments. Most people cannot do that. So that is why we're in that situation where debt is climbing up. If I can add this.
Yes, ma'am.
Another reason that the debt is climbing is also because a lot of these companies, even though they are extending credit limits, they're also cutting them. Citibank is a company right now that is actively cutting credit limits, even for their high limit borrowers.
Mm-hmm.
So if you do that, they can also, and if you're late, they're going to increase your interest as well.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of layers to this, Dave. So like I told you, catch me if I get stuck in the weeds here, but there's a lot of reasons that the debt is going up. It's blindsiding a lot of people, and they can't pay, and they don't understand. Spend more credit, you're going to have to pay more cash in the end. So.
Okay. Now here's something that I experienced. I talked to a lot of other people that in my trading group, and we all experienced something very similar to where I want to say maybe a month and a half ago, I got an email from my credit card company, and they just said, we extended your credit line. And it wasn't a few $100s. It was a massive extension. I didn't ask for it.
Yeah.
They just extended it.
Uh-huh.
I had another company email me and say, hey, if you reply back to us, we'll extend your credit line. And it wasn't a small extension. It was a massive extension.
Right.
And I spoke to some of my other traders, and they were like, yeah, we all experienced the same thing. So what we're seeing is that credit lines are being extended often without you even asking.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to ask you, well, why do you think this is taking place?
I think right now the banks are taking advantage of inflation, because just like we're suffering on our end as consumers, so is the bank. Because people have to remember, like, the way a credit line really originates, people kind of forget how that happens, or they just don't know. So long story short, it's like, okay, there are investors out there, and credit cards are essentially like, I might be using the term wrong, but it's like a debt instrument, right? Okay. So it's like, okay, they say, okay, we got to create all these products. We got this loan, and we need to make some money off of this loan because we have investors we got to pay back, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So if I see Dave is making his monthly payments every month on time, well, I extended Dave $10,000, fine. But Dave, if he keeps a balance, he is assuring me extra income in the form of interest payments every single month.
Okay.
So if I see that Dave has good payment history, Dave, might have even maxed out the credit card, but I see that he makes that monthly payment every month. So Dave is guaranteed income for me. So that's profit for me, and I can pay back my investors for this line of credit.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I was gonna say, am I making sense?
No, not to my audience, because we speak about asset-backed securities.
Yeah.
So we understand what you're talking about. So I appreciate you giving that explanation.
And that's what I wanted to really bring to the forefront, because that, to me, as a credit expert, is the true reason that these lines are being extended. It's to bring more income into the credit card company and then into their investors, who then turn around and do the entire thing all over again.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's it. In my opinion, my humble opinion, of course. So that's why I think that's happening. I also think that we have to also understand that credit is essentially just a number that somebody types into a system.
Okay.
Because why is it that I started you out at 5,000 and I can just miraculously make it 10,000 now?
Yeah.
Because I know you're going to spend it. Yeah, you're going to put it out there, stimulate the economy, which is another reason they're doing it, to stimulate the economy, right? But that also gives the investors more things to come back and invest in. So they also, like I said, there's so many reasons here. But if you also think about it, a bank also has to have liquid assets just like we do as consumers, right?
Okay.
The best way for them to keep liquid assets and deposits coming in is to keep extending you credit. Because again, I have to keep you in my system long enough to where you're going to be making payments to me month after month, year after year, to keep my liquidity going.
Yes, ma'am.
but you don't realize what I just gave you isn't liquid. I'm giving you numbers on a screen. You're giving me back cold hard cash.
Yeah.
So I think we missed that part with credit too.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And something that I thought about was that we understand the cost of capital is going up. It's going up across the board. It's continued to go up all the last year.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were looking at maybe the fact that the loan business, the actual selling the loans to consumers may not be as robust as the banks want it to be, but they know they can make money on the unsecured credit lines because most people don't even know what their interest rate is on the 25-day cycle.
No, and every client that I talk to, love them to death. But I was the same way too. It's like I'm like, what's your interest? Oh, I'm not really sure. I don't know.
Exactly.
Oh, okay. Listen, if your landlord went and raised your rent $50 per month, you would ask why.
Yeah.
You would ask, how did that happen? Or if there's surcharges. When we go into, I used to be do customer service right with a cell phone company.
Yes, ma'am.
People used to call and nickel and dime me about every little fee that was on that billing statement. but nobody's asking what interest is.
Yeah.
Interest is literally straight profit. Straight profit. That's it. That's how they pad their books and stuff like that. And again, that's how they pay the investors, right? For these funds and things.
Yes, ma'am.
So it's like, I was getting at, that's the whole misunderstanding a lot of people have. It's like, you have to know the interest because you need to know how much this credit card company is making off of you. Like, what is the profit? And as the consumer, it's your job to make that as low as possible. Call them and negotiate to get a lower interest rate.
Yeah, definitely. I think what people may not be aware of, like I said, is this something the consumer really just wants to do what they want to do, which is buy.
Right.
And they want it a lot of times to be as frictionless as possible. And so I think the consumer may not be aware that as the cost of capital goes up, there's like a base rate across the board that everybody has to pay unless they have some type of special agreement. And then the credit card company, then they add their rate on top of that. So as the baseline rate goes up across the board for everybody, then your interest rate is going to go up. So I think a lot of people may not be aware that their interest rate on their credit card has gone up over the past year. And they may not even be aware of it, especially if they're just making the minimum monthly payment.
Yeah, they're not going to notice it because it's a couple dollars here and there for most people. But the higher your limit is and the closer you are to maxing it out, then the more it's going to be. People typically only see that increase if they miss a payment. Because, once you miss a payment with a lot of credit card companies, they're going to bump you up to the max APR.
Yes, ma'am.
That's in your contract, right? And it's usually 29.99 minimum.
Yeah.
Right. But some of these companies are going as high as 35% with some of their loan products. So that's something people don't realize as well, which is another income stream for these companies. They want you to be late, but not really. They want you to, because that's even more money, right? Because I'm getting a lot of extra cash from you. So I'm sorry, I'm not even sure if I'm answering.
No, you're answering the right question because one of the things that we want to understand is that even though the increase can only be $1 to $2 per person, they have thousands of unsecured credit lines open. So if we can get thousands of people to give us an extra $1 to $2 per month on their credit line, that's millions of dollars that were coming back to us. And really, we didn't have to even work for. All we had to do was overnight change the algorithm to raise your rate. And now you're paying it and you're not even knowing it. Because most people won't notice a $1 to $2 increase on their payment.
Heck no.
Yeah.
Heck no. And most people don't even understand how their average daily rate is calculated.
Yes, ma'am.
Because I get people call me all the time. How do I avoid interest on my credit card? Well, you can't. How about that? If it's daily, you can't.
Yeah.
So stop it. Okay. Your best bet here is how can I pay the least amount of interest on these purchases? Now I can kind of teach you how to pay it on this date and this date versus, the due date. Okay, fine. But you're not going to avoid interest for your average credit card. I'm not going to say that's the case with all of them, but if you're not making that full payment, like for that month, you're never going to avoid interest.
Exactly.
Okay. And it's almost like trying to avoid interest for a car note. How are you going to do that?
Yeah. Unless you pay, like you say, unless you pay it all off at the same time.
Exactly. And why not just pay it off cash in the first place?
Exactly.
So, but that's really all it is. And I think that once you understand the back end of how credit works, then you will conduct yourself a lot differently in the front end. So like what you were saying a minute ago. Okay. So as an example, just so people can kind of understand, if Dave comes to me, and I'm pretty sure there's even a biblical story about this, right? It's like if Dave comes to me and says, okay, Vic, I need $1 million.
Okay.
I say, okay, Dave, I'm going to give you $1 million, but I need you to bring me back a minimum of 500,000 on top of that million that you're going to pay me back.
Okay.
That's exactly what the credit card company is doing. Essentially, they're saying, hey, we'll give you $10,000, but we need you to give us that payment back plus interest, right? The side of credit that people don't understand, though, is when I give you that $1 million, Dave, you're going to bring me back my 0.5, right? But you also have to make a profit in the process as well. So what do? You get creative with it. You say, okay, I'm going to give, 10 people over here 50,000. I'm going to get a certain amount of interest back from those people for this product. I'm going to give 5,000 people $2,000 per month. I'm going to get some money back from those people. I'm also going to give $500 credit limits extensions to some of these people over here, because not only am I going to get interest, I'm more likely to get these people's late payments, annual fees for their credit cards, and all kind of stuff. I can't tell you specifically. Well, I can if our agreement says it, but I can't tell you, Dave, how to distribute that $1 million. How you do it is up to you.
Exactly, unless it's in the agreement. See, now, but what you're doing is you're really teaching people how the financial system actually works. And I don't think because this is how this bank that just closed up on Friday, it's how they got in trouble. And I'm going to talk about that later. But yeah, so people don't really understand the game is to borrow money at one rate and loan it out at a lower rate. But they don't get that.
Listen, so it's really diversification, if you want to use a fancy word, but literally, and that's why I wanted to break it down like that, because if you,
great explanation.
If I give you $1 million and I say, bring me back 5, it's like, Dave, just do it legally, but bring me back my money.
Exactly.
So for the audience, it's like, Dave has to figure out, he's going to bring me back 1.5, but Dave can now flip that to 6 million if he wants to. And he can do that in any way, because all I want is my 1.5.
Exactly.
So I hope that's making sense to people.
And I may have 10 years to get it back to you.
There you go.
See what I'm saying? So you see what I'm saying? But I could put all that money to work, and I could find other people to loan that money out at a much higher rate. I could tell somebody else, well, I'm gonna give you 100, bring me back 100, 100,050, but you only got 12 months to do it.
That is exactly how loans work too. People got to understand. This is why they will give you 30,000 and give you 6 years to pay it back.
Exactly back.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
So that's why I said people got to look at what they're doing with their credits and their loans and understand the bank and these investors, they're in the same kind of relationship.
Exactly.
You just think it's different because they're using bigger words.
Yeah.
And there's more power behind them.
Exactly.
But no, they're just like us out here, y'all. It's the same.
Yeah.
We're just at the bottom of the totem pole.
Yeah, so that's a great explanation. Okay, so let me ask you this this next one. So if I'm the consumer getting my credit line extended, what are some of the pros and cons that you think could be involved in that particular scenario?
Ooh, okay, dude. I had so many written down. That's why I had to get some notes for this. Hold on real quick.
Okay.
Because I know, oh my Lord. Because like I said, I'm trying not to go over people's heads. Okay. Anyway, okay. I'm sorry. State your question again. Pros and cons.
If I'm a consumer, so I got my credit line extended. I didn't necessarily ask, but they extended it. What are some of the pros and cons for me as a consumer?
Okay, so cons, I feel like we already went over that. The cons are if you have debt out there that you cannot pay, and let's be clear, credit is debt. Okay, guys?
Okay.
It appears to be an extension of your income, but it is not. It is literally, like I said, a debt instrument. I'm probably using that term wrong, but that's essentially what it is. It's an instrument that's out there that's creating debt. Okay. So the minute you swipe it, you're in debt. All right. So that's the con. The con is if you don't have a structure for how you're going to pay this thing back, if you don't understand that, how interest works, that's a con. Because you're going to get your pockets shaken down. If you don't know how to strategically pay off that debt, that's a con, right? So the con is there's a trick being played sometimes where when you have credit, you feel like now you can go out and, do the discretionary income thing, right? I can go play video games. I can get on OnlyFans. I can go to the movies more. I can, you start doing all this weird stuff. And that's a con as well, because you're tricked into thinking it's an extension of your income. It is not. Okay. The pro is that if you know how to do, and I'm not going to say how to do it on this live stream or this recording, but this is the thing. You can take cash from those credit cards and go purchase like assets that you can eventually liquidate. Most people are not ready for that conversation. They're not ready for that game, but there's roundabout ways to do this if people want to really get into that part of the game. But that's the behind the paywall. So
definitely.
But that's where the pros come in. Now, the other thing that they can do, Dave, as a pro is they need to, if they don't have the money to get skilled up, like you talk about, Cherie talks, everybody talks about this, right? They can use those credit cards and loans and things to finance getting better skills.
Okay.
Right. So that's another thing that I say that your average person can do that doesn't necessarily want to pull cash, flip it into something else, blah, blah, blah. Right. I hope I'm making sense, but that's really
making sense.
So for me, that's the biggest pro. I would pull cash from a credit card and then I would go buy tax liens. Right. I actually have done that myself. You know, that's a cash bearing asset. That money's coming back to me at 18% in some states.
Okay.
So to me, it's more valuable for me to pull it out. And you don't even have to pull out the money. You can actually, some of these will let you actually swipe credit cards to pay for tax liens. Yeah. Okay. So I would rather use it to do something like that because the return is going to end up being greater if you know how to pay off that debt.
Okay. Yeah. So you need to go ahead and let us know when you drop the credit financing course.
Sir.
Yeah. Because these are things that we're not talking about. Because let me give you an example. I was a person to where I charged when I was in community college. I charged my tuition and my books, and then in the summer I paid it all back. So I was able to just do the carrying costs during the year. Then in the summer I worked full through,
right?
You know, worked full time, didn't go to school, and then paid it all back. And at the top of the year I started all over again. Yeah. So without access to credit lines, I would have had to come up with the cash, which I couldn't come up with. I didn't want to take financial aid.
Yeah, and some people can't do financial aid like me. Excuse me. I grew up in a single parent household. Okay. However, mysteriously, my mom still made too much for me to get financial aid.
Yeah.
What the hell kind of game is that? But you know what? Whatever. That's why I left. I know you got a degree, but I dropped out. So no, because I knew it was BS. I said, if y'all not gonna send me for free, I'm not going.
I feel you.
I'm not going. You know, how dare you? Anyway, sir.
Yeah. So but it was a good example of how you can leverage access to the credit.
Yes.
And you know, do things with it that can be to your benefit outside of just buying a product or buying something that's buying something that's going to depreciate over time as opposed to investing in yourself or investing in some type of asset.
Yeah. And then, you know, another pro with credit is, you know, like you said, if they're extending credit lines right now, if you have high utilization, why not just call them and ask them to extend you more credit? Because that's gonna improve your credit score, which is then going to open you up to be able to apply and get approved for other credit products. And then you can turn it, flip it, do it again. Once again, these are games that the people behind the credit card companies are already doing.
Yeah.
That's why they're extending you credit in the first place, because they're playing that same game on a higher scale.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, we're helping fund that. That's what's happening.
Yes, ma'am. So let's go into the next one is that, and we kind of talked about, but when we're talking about the consumer, what can they do to leverage this to their favor? You also talked about the utilization, but is there anything else? Because I immediately, when I saw it, I said, well, you know what? My utilization number is going to go down because they extended my credit limit. So is there anything else a consumer can do if they take on that advance or they accept that advance to kind of utilize this to their favor?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a couple things. I could think of something out of the, you know, people won't really think about, but you could, let's say you have a young person in the house that needs to build some credit.
Okay.
There is still value in adding people as authorized users.
Okay.
You know what I mean? That can help somebody. And then once that person's good, they're on their feet, they can get some more credit. That's now a whole nother line of credit that can be used to, again, obtain assets, right? Okay. To purchase more debt is really what it is. And like I said, I'm probably going all over the place, but it's like, if I see that I could get maybe some kind of asset, right, that's going to appreciate and that I could eventually liquidate, that asset that I bought for like $1,000, if I liquidate it and I can get $6 back in return, well, I could pay that credit card off and turn around and do it again. You know what I'm saying? So, but as far as like somebody that's not going to get that deep into it, like I said, you can do the authorized user. So you can start helping people around you build credit by that, you know, which is going to eventually, I think, help everybody's personal economy in the long run. And again, like I said, people need to skill up. You need to go to, you know, whatever courses, classes, get the education you need to get a better job, or to even start your own thing, right? What I wouldn't say to do is don't go put it in crypto. That's just me personally.
I feel you.
Because listen, it's somebody cutting up right now in a class that I'm in, and I'm like, bro, stop it. Please stop.
Okay.
Please stop. So what are your ideas? I'm going to flip it back on you. What do you think about that?
Oh, about crypto or about what I can do to put it in my favor?
Would you take out money to go put it in crypto?
It depends on what the crypto was.
Oh, damn. I thought you was going to say that.
It depends on what the crypto was. Because it's
Dang it, Dave.
the crypto space is so wide, so expansive.
Oh, man.
I'm in favor of certain cryptos. Other cryptos, I don't even pay attention to it.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I take it back then, y'all. Dave
Yeah. So it all depends. No, it's all depends. So I mean, but you coming from a credit specialist standpoint, you have an opinion from somebody that's actually in the space.
Yeah.
So
you
you
gotta
can,
make sure.
yeah, exactly. So your counsel can be different because I understand that you're working with people day to day. I'm not. I'm just doing my thing.
Yeah. And even when it comes to skilling up, if I can backtrack there, that's dangerous too. Because I said on my last live stream, it's like I can tell by looking at your credit report, something happened. Either you started paying for school, you bought some courses, maybe you bought groceries, whatever. Because some people, I even see furniture is on there. And I'm like, what? I don't know if this was a joke either, but somebody even got some Jordans from Rent-A-Center. And I hope that was a joke.
I seen that. Yeah, I didn't understand how that works because how do you rent shoes? Let's say you don't pay it when they repossess the shoes.
That's the other thing. I don't know. But then we're back in the cycle where there will be debt buyers, I'm not sure if the hedge funds do it, but I know that there will be somebody to go buy that debt up and get paid from it. So, but that's the whole thing. It's like the best thing people can do right now, if I may toot my own horn, you need to go ahead and pay somebody to get you some financial education with that credit if you get some extended, for real.
Yeah, definitely.
Because it would benefit you. But that's really my biggest thing, Dave. I think us getting skilled up and then us learning how to pull cash from the credit cards.
Okay.
Not a cash advance. I'm not talking about that because that gives them more interest. Okay. But there's ways to pull it off where you don't have to do all that. Okay. But once again. Okay. Not investment advice, not financial advice.
Exactly.
So
understand.
But those are the two main areas. Pull it out and then go. I keep saying that. Sorry. So you can do that. And then, like I said, invest in assets that are going to actually give you a greater return.
Okay. So a lot of people are going to be experiencing this and they're going to kind of want to know how to kind of navigate these waters. So with you being an expert in this space and we knowing that you have a track record, how can people find you on the internet, online, your social media connects? Where are they at?
Okay, so to talk to me directly would be mycreditcall.com. Okay, so you can book either a debt consultation or a credit consultation. So you can ask me any and everything. And a little bonus that I do for people is I actually provide you with a recording of our conversation. So just like me and Dave are on the screen here, that's exactly what you're getting. You're going to get a recording so you can see everything that we talked about, refer back to it, do all that good stuff. Okay. Nobody in this game is doing that. I probably just gave somebody an idea, but that's the bonus that I give for y'all. Also, if you want to do the credit repair services, we could talk about that during the consultation, or you can go over to fixmyficonow.com and you can send us a message from that website. And then we can see if we can maybe schedule a call. Cause I don't really do free calls anymore. I usually get my clients from the consultation. So
understand.
All right. Barrier of entry.
I feel you. So I really appreciate it, Victoria. And I want to really encourage everybody to make sure that they, watch this video all the way through, and anything that she talked about, make sure that you try to implement it. And definitely if you want to take things further and get a much more comprehensive understanding of how to really leverage your credit, put yourself in a better financial situation, reach out to her and make sure that y'all connect so you can start moving forward for 2023.
Oh, I got one more thing.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Y'all, I actually just finished up how to start a small business. I just did a course. So it's not up yet, but it will be probably by the time Dave gets this video out. So come on over and subscribe. To look forward to. Definitely. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. You're going to find it, y'all.
Okay. All right. So Victoria, I really appreciate it.
For sure, Dave.